He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. Friedrich Nietzsche. Most men are ghosts who haunt their own lives, confused, compliant, and perpetually begging for validation that will never be given. They chase love, security, and a fleeting sense of happiness from a world they refuse to see clearly, only to find themselves heartbroken, hollowed, or trapped within a cage of their own design. They mistake dependence for devotion and service for strength. Centuries ago, an unflinching mind, like that of Schopenhauer, laid bare the brutal calculus of human nature. He exposed truths so corrosive to the romantic lie that most men would rather commit philosophical suicide than accept them. What you are about to confront is the diagnostic of your predicament and the blueprint for your liberation. You will see precisely where your illusions have disarmed you and how to finally seize back the one thing you can truly command: your own will. Pay attention, because this knowledge is the missing cipher. It is the cold, sharp key that most men will never have the ruthlessness to turn. The architect of the illusion is not morality, but pure, unthinking biology. Schopenhauer saw the great drama of love for what it truly is. Not a spiritual connection, but a ruthless, chemical compulsion, a trick designed by the will to live for one singular purpose: replication. It is the ultimate con game, and you are the predictable mark. Here is the bitter pill. When you feel that electric current, that conviction that she is the one, your brain is not communing with a soulmate. It is a ruthless, subterranean calculator, assessing genetic compatibility and resource advantage. As Lacan understood, the object of desire is not the person but the lack, the empty space you project your longing onto. The moment of union is not a spiritual climax. It is the climax of the biological function, the moment the illusion has served its primary, indifferent purpose. Think of the men who have immolated their purpose for a woman who later departs without a backward glance. How many marriages crumble when the intoxicating chemical high evaporates? This is not coincidence. It is nature's perfect design. Women are not guided by fairness, loyalty, or logical consistency. They are bound to an ancient selection program hardwired to seek status, security, and genetic superiority. A man's devotion is a currency that depreciates to zero if it is not backed by the gold standard of power. Schopenhauer's observation was a detached, geological survey. They are ruled by instinct and emotion, not by the laborious scaffolding of reason. Most men operate under a catastrophic delusion that love is a mutual ledger, that if they sacrifice enough and prove their worth through service, they will be rewarded. They have been sold the lie of the nice guy, a character whose fatal flaw is a profound misunderstanding of human psychology. But as Machiavelli might have written, to be loved, one must not be just, but clever. Women do not submit to niceness. They are drawn to strength. Not mere physical bulk, but social, financial, and most crucially, psychological strength. The man who finishes last is playing the wrong game. He believes love is earned through servitude. The instinct of a woman, however, is drawn to the man who does not need to serve. Have you noticed the precise moment a woman's interest cools once she believes she has successfully secured a man? Schopenhauer called this the tragedy of possession. The thrill is not in having the castle, it is in conquering it. Once the siege is over, the biological imperative moves on. This is why the man who clings too tightly, who makes her the center of his orbit, is guaranteed to watch her orbit diminish and finally collapse. The central twist, the pivot, is this. This is not her fault. This is the indifferent hand of nature's design. The man who truly grasps this stops the useless cycle of blame. He ceases to be a victim, and he begins, instead, to strategize. Schopenhauer's lesson is to see the world with cold, hard clarity. Love is not a fantasy, it is a negotiation. And the man who attempts to negotiate from a position of desperate need loses every time. This, however, is merely the surface tension. The next layer of truth is significantly more brutal. It explains, with devastating clarity, why the average man is being comprehensively outplayed in every arena, from the bedroom to the boardroom, and how you can finally learn to flip the script entirely. Prepare yourself, because what follows is the point where the final, comforting lies you have been told your entire life will be systematically stripped away. The rules of attraction are not fair, they are not logical, and they are most certainly not written in your favor. While modern society preaches equality, biology operates on the cold, immutable laws of a different, more ancient system. And the man who attempts to ignore this primal logic is already a casualty. Here is the crushing, undeniable reality. Women hold the ultimate leverage in the relational economy. Not because they are cruel, but because nature has deliberately designed them to be the selectors. The moment she crosses the threshold of puberty, a woman's value in the sexual marketplace has peaked. A man's value, conversely, must be forged through a relentless, decades-long process of struggle, status acquisition, and demonstrable survival capacity. His value is a debt he must pay with action. Schopenhauer's blunt assessment that women are often childish, frivolous, and short-sighted was not an insult. It was a cold, hard summary of an evolutionary truth. Her youth and beauty are her currency, and she possesses an innate genius for knowing precisely how to spend it for maximum return. Look around. The modern man is drowning in a philosophical paradox. He is told to be emotionally vulnerable while the women he desires still instinctively chase dominance and decisive action. He is worked to the bone, the exhausted provider in an economic system that rewards his output with the threat of financial ruin. Schopenhauer warned of this structural vulnerability centuries ago. Modern woman has not merely embraced this intrinsic power. The social landscape has allowed her to weaponize it. Social media has transmuted attention into economic leverage, and the average man has willingly become the unpaid laborer. He orbits, he simps, he competes for mere scraps of validation from women who have zero intention of giving him commitment. Why? Because he has been systematically sold the most debilitating lie of all, that devotion alone is enough. Schopenhauer's diagnosis, that female love is overwhelmingly conditional. It is inextricably tethered to the man's utility. A man is not cherished for who he is, but for what he currently provides. The very moment he ceases to provide, or begins to stagnate, the love does not simply fade. It curdles into contempt, and finally, into replacement. This is the pure, cold logic of survival. This dichotomy leads to the chilling division that Schopenhauer observed: the men who serve and the men who are served. The beta male exhausts his life force trying to prove his worth. The alpha male effortlessly commands worth by operating from a posture of independence. One man begs for loyalty, the other inspires an enduring obsession. These men are not victims. They are willing volunteers for their own humiliation. But Schopenhauer's genius was not just in diagnosis. He revealed the solution, the hard-won truth. The first rule of survival is to see the world not as you wish it to be, but as it truly, brutally is. The man who thrives today is the one who accepts the rules of the game and then commits to mastering them. And the final, non-negotiable truth of the game is this: it is rigged, but only if you insist on playing by the wrong set of rules. Most men quit here. It is not about women or society. It is about you. And the moment you face that unflinching reflection, every variable in your life will irrevocably shift. Schopenhauer's mind uncovered a disturbing form of power. Women do not compete like men. Their greatest weapon is invisible, instinctive, and devastatingly effective: emotional influence. While men wage war with logic, women conduct a silent, persistent campaign through perception management. They do not seek to conquer your body. They seek to manipulate the reality itself that you inhabit. When a man demands something, he uses authority. When a woman wants something, she creates the psychological scenario where you genuinely believe it was your own original idea. The delusion of the modern male is to believe he is the director of his own relationship. He is wrong. From the initial exchange to the final dissolution, the woman subtly guides the interaction through a continuous series of tests. The compliance test, the frame test, the investment test. Most men fail them without ever realizing the examination had begun. Schopenhauer warned that women are instinctively crafty and have an innate talent for deception. This is a description of evolutionary programming. An intuitive mastery of male psychology became the ultimate currency. Here is the absolute core of the modern trap. Men confuse a woman's attention for genuine, committed interest. Women are overwhelmingly drawn to men who demonstrate, in every action, that they do not need them. The moment you permit a woman to become the central purpose of your entire existence is the precise moment she will begin to lose her respect for you. Nothing disintegrates perceived value faster than palpable, desperate neediness. Every sustained interaction with a woman is, at its root, an unspoken power struggle. She weeps to evade accountability. She strategically withholds affection to train your compliance. Schopenhauer identified this as the tyranny of the weak. Women leverage their perceived vulnerability to effectively control a stronger adversary. The man who falls for it becomes a slave. The man who ruthlessly recognizes it, however, becomes unstoppable. But there is a path out. Schopenhauer's most liberating truth is this: the first step to freedom is simply seeing the chains. Once you accept that the nature of attraction is a biological algorithm, you cease to take it personally. You stop begging for loyalty and you start structuring a life that inspires it. The final, essential lesson is deceptively simple. The most dangerous lies in a man's life are not the ones women tell him. They are the insidious lies he tells himself. Schopenhauer's ultimate, devastating revelation was a cold, unflinching decree on the reality of human nature itself. He offered the only viable path to genuine, lasting liberation. Transcend the game entirely. The fatal error of the modern man is his belief that his happiness is contingent upon female validation. Schopenhauer saw through the illusion. The happiness which we receive from ourselves is greater than that which we obtain from our surroundings. The men who genuinely thrive are not those who seek to conquer women, but those who have achieved a profound, unshakable conquest of the self. They cultivate a purpose so consuming, so intrinsically rewarding, that female attention transforms from a life-or-death necessity into a simple, pleasant, and entirely optional bonus. The truly remarkable men of history were not distracted by the petty dramas of the chase. They were too busy building the empires. Here are the three immutable pillars of an unshakable, sovereign masculinity. 1. Economic sovereignty. Money is not about trinkets, but for the profound freedom and independence it relentlessly secures. The man who controls his finances controls his own fate. 2. Philosophical depth. The exceptional man cultivates a mind sharp enough to cut through the voluminous lies of the culture. He contemplates and thinks for himself, transforming his mind into a fortress. 3. Physical mastery. The body is the vessel of your will. Weakness in the physical domain inevitably breeds a corresponding weakness across your entire psychological landscape. Here is the emotional armor. The safest way of not being very miserable is not to expect to be very happy. This is the sound of emotional invulnerability. The man who consciously stops begging the world for love suddenly finds these very things gravitating toward him. Why? Because he has ruthlessly removed himself from the desperate, compliant masses. He has become the prize. The ancient battle is not a personal grudge. It is biological theater. The man who wakes up to this reality stops blaming and immediately begins the hard, necessary work of evolving. He does not wallow in resentment of female nature. He adapts to it. He builds a life so compelling and so powerful that women must either rise to his non-negotiable standards or simply watch the grand performance of his life from the sidelines. Schopenhauer's final lesson: we forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. The choice is not between women and freedom. The choice is between continuing to chase illusions built by others, or making the necessary, painful step into the terrifying domain of your true power. The red pill, in context, is not about a temporary hatred of the opposite sex. It is about loving the truth enough to ruthlessly destroy your old self and rebuild a sovereign, untouchable self in its unforgiving image. This is where your real life, a life of commanding purpose, begins.